Well, good afternoon, everyone. So good to have you with us. It's right at the top of the hour. We're going to give it about a minute for everybody to filter into the room, and we will be underway. So glad to have you. And while you are here, go ahead and jump into the chat. Tell us your name and where you're viewing from today. I'll tell you that I'm in an unusual location today, not in my usual home office, coming to you today from beautiful Greensboro, North Carolina, where the Hunt Institute held a convening earlier today. So my background looks a little different. That is why. Great to see all of you popping up in the chat. You got to read quick in this chat.
My goodness.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get underway. Again, welcome everybody. It's so nice to have you with us. My name is Dan Worry. I am the Senior Director of Early Learning at the Hunt Institute. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, the Institute is the creation of four-term governor of North Carolina, Jim Hunt, founded in 2001, and we are an education policy support to the nation's governors and state lawmakers primarily. The Institute covers the full continuum of education from prenatal on up through post-secondary. But on the first Tuesday of each month, we hold this, our Early Efforts web series, which is focused on the early childhood portion of that continuum. And so great to have you with us as always. We have a really exciting conversation today on something that has been very much in the news actually of late, and that is nature-based learning. You may have seen stories, and maybe this was exacerbated. We'll talk to the panel about this, but maybe exacerbated or spurred on a bit by the pandemic. I think during because of the need for social distancing in some cases, and I think maybe partly as sort of a backlash to what was close to 2 years of a kind of a virtual world. There has been more and more of a push to get outdoors and to have children spending time outdoors and maybe away from quite as many screens as they are exposed to. And so we have seen across the nation and in the States a trend toward things like forest preschools, for example, that are fully outdoor programs. Whether you're interested in kind of fully outdoor programs or interested maybe in just incorporating more outdoor learning and play into existing programs, you are in the right place today. We've got a fantastic panel. And to help us to unpack this today, I'm excited to say that we are hosting this today in partnership with our good friends at Trust for Learning. Our friend Katrina Floyd is with us today. Katrina is an early childhood partnerships manager at Trust for Learning. And the Trust today, Katrina, is releasing a brand new report on this topic. So fill us in a little bit about, first off, maybe why this was a hot topic and something that Trust for Learning is leaning in on at this point, and where can we find the report?
Yeah, so I'll introduce myself, Katrina Floyd from Trust for Learning. At the Trust, we work with educators and experts all over the country towards this collective vision of ideal learning environments for all young children and their families. And we share a common language framework for what this means that I'm going to share in the chat. But to boil it down, it's about relationships, exploration, racial equity, and making sure that we're bringing the best of brain science and implementation science to bear on programs, particularly in publicly funded settings, from home-based childcare to early elementary. And while nature has always been a part of the ideal learning principles, we were kind of thrilled today to venture outside the classroom and center walls and imagine what's possible when we reconnect all children to nature in small and large ways. And that was what we did with this learning brief. And you'll meet Lynn Turner here in a few minutes, and she is one of the co-authors on this brief. So Dan, we're so excited to be here.
And where can we find the brief, Katrina?
I will, you know what? I will put it in the chat.
Okay. But I'm sure probably links, I would imagine, from the main page for Trust for Learning.
Absolutely, trustforlearning.org.
Great. We'll go and check that out as we're talking today. But let me introduce you to the rest of our panel, and also maybe before I do that, just a couple of housekeeping notes as we get started. First is that our early effort series, as always, is closed captioned, and so if that is a service that you would find useful, you can find the closed captioning controls down at the Zoom bar at the bottom of your screen. Please avail yourself of that service, as it may be helpful to you. Later in the hour, we are going to turn to your questions. And so encourage you, one, to connect with one another in the chat, but also if you have a question for the panel, to drop that in the Q&A function down at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Please try to avoid maybe putting those questions into the chat. You can probably see how quickly the chat is moving. Those things can get very easily lost there. So if you drop it into the Q&A button, then we'll be sure to be able to keep track of your questions. So we'll turn to those in just a few minutes. And then a reminder that, as always, you'll be able to find the recording of today's session on the Hunt Institute's YouTube channel here within the next day or two. Just go to YouTube, search the Hunt Institute, and you will be able to find not only this recording, but dozens and dozens, if not more, of past early efforts and all of our other series as well. So with that, let's jump in. I want to introduce the fantastic panel that we have together with us today. Lynn Turner is Coordinator of Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access at the Waldorf Early Childhood Association of North America. Sorry, I'm so used to saying North Carolina, Lynn, that I'm of North America. Dora Ramos is owner and operator of Nova Family Childcare. Gami Moses is the Student Affairs Manager at Common Ground in New Haven, Connecticut. And Happy Haynes is the Executive Director of Denver Parks and Recreation. It's such a treat to have all of you with us today. Thanks for joining us. And Gami, maybe I'll turn to you, you first. First off, I want to say congratulations to you. You were recently awarded the Environmental Educator of the Year award by the Connecticut Outdoor and Environmental Education Association. You serve, as I mentioned, as the Student Affairs Manager at Common Ground, which is both a high school and an environmental education program in New Haven, Connecticut. For the purposes of our conversation today, obviously we want to focus a little bit more on the years of early childhood, but thought, Gami, that maybe you would start us off by talking a little bit about why is outdoor learning important for children of all ages, and then maybe can focus in a little bit more about how you work with younger kids.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the recognition. So in terms of why is nature-based learning important, right, for all ages, right? I think, like you mentioned, so we went from Richard Love's book, Last Child in the Woods, right? And after that, we were reminded through the pandemic, right? When, learning how to move outdoor, basically, right? So what the pandemic did was it kind of reminded us that, we need to spend more time outside, and we have the capability of spending more time outside, right? And what we saw was the benefits, right? We know the benefits of like students being more happy, being more focused, they have less stress, increasing their problem solving skills and ability, and most importantly, the ability to develop relationships with each other in the outdoors, right? Now, for some mysterious reason, we also found that students are more focused outside than inside, right? Now, bear in mind the amount of distractions is out in the woods. There's birds flying, there's, people might be passing, but yet still they are still more focused than being in the actual classroom, right? So my experience in what I did was to sort of bring that to kids from age 3 all the way up to like 12, right? So what we did was I did outdoor exploration, so hiking and walking in the woods, to team building, to free play, so having intentional time for children to play in nature, right? And what that sort of did was give them an opportunity to be outside. Now, the critical thing about that work is that we have, especially for young children, older children might be able to go to the park on their own without supervision, or ride their bike without supervision, right? But younger children are able to do that. they need supervision. And also the younger kids, you know, this might be the only outdoor time that they have within a day, right? Because when they go home, parents can pick them up, it might be dark already. They might not have access to outdoor spaces at their house, you know, so they might be living in an apartment building. So that's why it's critical and it's important to develop programs for these students.
That's great, Gami. Thank you so much. And Dora, I want to turn to you and talk a little bit about what this looks like when it comes to family-based childcare. Obviously, they play an important role in incorporating nature into young learners' lives. So Dora, tell us a little bit about your program, Nova Academy, and how you incorporate outdoor learning and how it benefits the kids in your care.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here sharing our experiences and the love of nature with everyone that is hearing here. We embrace the nurture nature provides. Each child will develop a connection, a unique experience toward making outdoor time habitual. Our hope is that one day, through an early positive upbringing with nature, they look forward to giving back and becoming a helping hand to change the world. The children that attend Nova Academy, which is my daycare, are exposed at an early age. They attend the daycare since they are 6 weeks old. And we already at that age, we start implanting, teaching them and exposing them about nature. This includes learning to plant, grow, harvest our very own fruits and vegetables. We have the capacity to do that, and we're very thankful for that to nature. Nature helps children see their world in a better way. So what are the benefits that the children receive from nature? It helps the children to have an unlimited time for exploration, observation, imagination, and creativity. It helps the children develop better in all the areas of development. Let's talk about socially. Socially is something, a key factor, right? One of the key factors for development in children. It starts at an early age. So the children learn to play together. They learn to share their ideas, to plan a game or an activity. They learn to take turns when they have to water the plants or when they want to water the plants. They learn to share, take turns to the shovels, wheelbarrows, or any other equipment that they may need to work on, dirt, mud, anything. They learn to help each other to achieve their own tasks. They gain empathy towards the younger ones and become more compassionate towards themselves, their friends, and the animals that surround them as well. They learn to be gentle, very gentle with our plants. What I did, and I found out that it helps, is we blow kisses. We come outside, we blow kisses to the plants, and we talk to them so gentle, just to reinforce that we need to be very, very gentle with them. They're fragile. They learn to be gentle with the animals as well. As soon as we come outside, we greet them. We say good morning to the birds. We say good morning to the squirrels. We say good morning to the trees. And we say, thank you so much for the oxygen that you give us every single day. And we are very thankful for everything that is around us, the dirt, the rain, for giving us water so the flowers can grow, so the plants can grow. So we implement a lot of gratitude to our nature. That's one of the ways that we give back to nature. We thank them for everything they do for us. The other things that we do is respect. They learn respect of all the animals that surround us, that we can see that they're around them. We greet them, like I said before. We try to be very, very patient with them because some of the little animals, some of the little bugs are around us. We talk to them that we need to be very, very patient and nice with them and kind, which is very important for them. And they do it. They love to greet them. They love to see them. They love to share the same habitat that they live in. They learn sharing. They learn sharing by observing that we share the same habitat. Observe how a tree is sharing itself. It's not only giving us oxygen, it's also be in the house of so many animals and give us shade in the summer. How nice of a tree, sharing so many things with us since they're young. So we build bird houses for the birds in winter and provide food for them. We use a lot of open-ended questions to help them understand the world they live in. And we're very thankful for having this opportunity. And hopefully everybody gets connected with nature, which makes a big difference in all the children. And we cannot forget about gross motor, fine motor, and language. Gross motor, we know that they stretch their bodies as we stretch our bodies as we go outside and connect with nature. The children are free to walk, run, jump, hike, balance their bodies at their own pace, discover new things their bodies are capable of. Fine motor, they work with their fingers as they dig for worms, as they construct something with dirt, or they pretend cooking with mud. Language, they expand their vocabulary to the maximum by learning everything about nature. And by the way, we know that children learn through repetition, and we do everything in Spanish. So their brain is also working 2 times. Parents speak to them in their own language or another language that they may know. And we try to implement everything in Spanish so they learn bilingual in everything. Thank you very much.
Dora, what a beautiful picture you have just painted of your program. I have to.
Thank you.
I don't know if you were able to watch the chat as you were speaking, but you definitely have a fan club in the viewing audience. I suspect the waiting list for your preschool program has just extended by 10 years as you described it there. Thank you for sharing all of that. What a beautiful program. I want to remind you again, we will turn to some questions from you in the chat here in a little while, so please use the Q&A function. We've got a couple of questions in there already. In the meantime, though, I'm going to turn, Lynn, to you at this point. The Waldorf schools have a long tradition of including nature as an essential element in the early learning approach there at Waldorf. So as the in your position at the Waldorf Early Childhood Association, maybe share a little bit about the Waldorf approach and how it incorporates nature, and maybe how the organization is working to help to expand these kinds of opportunities for all children.
Yes, thank you, Dan, so much for the question and for the opportunity. So Waldorf Early Childhood Association of Northern America, where I work, we are part of a very large community. It's really a global movement for Waldorf education. And unfortunately, the narrative in the United States has been somewhat insular, as a very limited narrative. And there is so much more diversity and richness coming out of Waldorf that I would like to really highlight today. is committed to protecting and nurturing childhood as a foundation for renewing human culture for all children and families. And one way that we are lifting the veil now and being more transparent with what we are doing in the movement of Waldorf education is, as you said, that we have been steeped in this very long tradition of helping to embed children in nature, through celebrating connections in nature, through tuning into the daily rhythms and seasonal rhythms, the breathing of the earth, the cosmos as a practice in all of our Waldorf schools. We nurture the impulse of a festival life in our schools that stream out of observation and witnessing the natural cycles of the year all over the world. We do have schools in all 4 hemispheres. We have urban schools, rural schools, tropical schools, schools in very cold climates, in all natural settings. And Waldorf educators learn the essential aspects of integrating nature connectivity as part of this healthy breathing and daily rhythm of the young child. So Waldorf education is, as I said, all over the world, and we are part of this global movement. And our programs are continuing to expand to meet the needs of today's children, families, and communities. Part part of our North American educational impulse. The driving force that we have is to really bring the needed change to childcare and early childhood education through outreach and public policy initiatives, such as our relationship with the Ideal Learning Roundtable, and really deepening our collaborations and partnerships with other initiatives such as these that are in support of the needs and the rights of all children. We can, and the Alliance for Public Waldorf Schools were invited to join the Ideal Learning Roundtable with the Trust for Learning in 2017. And we have been very active members in almost all aspects of this work, including the development of the Ideal Learning educational principles. To give you a little bit more depth into the work that WeCan is doing here in the United States, in Canada, and Mexico, I will refer you to our website. We have a lot of free resources for parents, for educators, and people interested in learning ways to best support the growing young child. We have many publications, we have annual conferences, lots of opportunities, and are now creating even more accessible training opportunities that also include some virtual components for those who are interested in learning about Waldorf education and our emphasis on nature. Internationally, WeCan is part of the global Waldorf movement, the International Association of Steiner Waldorf Early Childhood Education. We are members of, and that means we are part of this global perspective. There are schools all over the world. We have schools in Tanzania, in refugee camps in Lebanon, in Japan, all over the world. And so we work together collaboratively and learn together so that we can really support each other. In fact, later this week, I'll be going to Dornach, Switzerland for the 100-year Waldorf International Teachers Conference. So again, we're always working together, you know, in the macrocosm and the microcosm together, just really partnering as much as we can to highlight really the work of supporting young children. The Alliance, again, is one of our partners stateside, the public initiative. There are actually 61 public Waldorf schools in the United States. Those are publicly funded. Most of them do have transitional kindergartens, but not all of them do because some are standalone high school initiatives. And we're averaging about 2 to 3 new Alliance schools per year. But right now there is a lot of discussion within the Waldorf movement as we see a gap, as we are not part of any Head Start program. So that is an area that we are looking at right now to expand. Thank you so much.
Lynn, thank you so much. And I should note to everyone that we all noticed that Lynn was the only one who took the nature-based theme to heart and did her broadcast from outdoors today. We probably should have all thought to do that. And Lynn and Katrina, I want to come back to you in just a minute and talk a little bit more about the report too. But I want to turn to Happy at this point. Happy is the executive director of Parks and Recreation for Denver. You have been involved really in the transformation of the city park there. So talk to us a little bit about that ongoing project and maybe specifically some of the partnerships that you created in the community to guide this this transformation of this beautiful resource in Denver. And Happy, you're muted.
Of course, it's a phrase we'll never get out of our brains. It's a pleasure to be here, and you know, my brain is whirring with just all of what I've heard so far today. Really excited about sharing our experience with one particular park and playground, and the opportunities it has created for us as a department to expand our efforts to increase nature-based play into our parks and into our playgrounds. And so a few years ago, we had a small existing playground in our city park. It is our largest and sort of premier park. A small playground, which was, you know, the typical small playground for little kids, and copying some of the bad habits we had in formal education by sitting kids at desks and creating routines and trying to pour stuff into their little brains. Our playgrounds, similarly, for many, many years, were just small versions of the older kids' playgrounds. And, you know, very in many ways, very structured play, not really promoting kids to explore and to learn the way that we all know that they do naturally. And so knowing that we had these plans to build a new playground for our youngest children to replace the existing one that was aging, the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, which occupies a corner of the park, approached us. And they had a desire to be more than just a presence in the park, but to use the park as an extension of their educational programming about the natural world and to contribute to the park in a more meaningful way. And knowing that we were of our growing interest in designing and building more nature-based features into our parks, they invited us to envision a very different kind of nature-inspired playground that would be both playground and learning environment, and offered to bring their resources and expertise to the table to create this innovative project. So we were quite intrigued, liked the idea, and then they made the very bold offer to completely take charge of this project from conception through construction, raising the funds to design and build it. And while we would contribute some capital funding that we already had for it and provide oversight. And I would say that outside of the Trust for Public Land, we had never before completely turned over a project to another organization. So it's a little scary for some of our team, but the idea of a nature-based playground that complemented the museum's strong educational programming was just too compelling not to make that leap. And so we did. We convinced our lawyers to do it, and we created a project agreement, and the museum was off and running. And I have to say, amazing kudos to the Museum of Nature and Science for really understanding all that we've been talking about and using their knowledge of early childhood learning experiences and even in their own programming and their own educational efforts. And so their first step was ask the people who use it and the surrounding community what they wanted. And so they asked the community to identify natural features of the park. And really what they did throughout this process was embed, learning about the natural environment, but not guiding the community, letting the community get to their own conclusions about what would be good for our children. And I was really proud of that, and observing the fact that they were using in their own techniques of community engagement and educating the community that children, we should be using with young children, which is letting them explore and discover and find out about things rather than always pointing out the obvious to them and telling them what they need to know. So they conducted many outdoor workshops for the community where they invited parents and kids just to come to the park, play on whatever was there. They dragged in large logs and branches and brought water and mud and sand and you name it, and just let people explore. And they learned some really, really valuable things from just watching the kids and the families interact with all of these elements in the park. And then they asked them about it and what they enjoyed and what they had observed. And it reminded me as a person who's been involved in early childhood myself for a number of years, where the parents' part of the experience is so critically important. And that is watching their kids and figuring out how they learn. Learning styles are created on the playground, and with kids engaging with nature. And so we learned some incredibly valuable information about what kids really like to do when they're outside playing and when they're interacting with nature without anybody telling them what to do and guiding them and creating the play and the games. They made them up by themselves quite nicely. And it was truly a joy to watch, but it was such a learning experience for all of us who are accustomed to taking designs off the shelf and, and being very creative. But still, what we learned, it was all from that experience of watching kids and parents playing in the playground and then creating a park and a design that responded. And then we take the ideas back to the kids and the parents and test them and see, what they thought. And so this was probably the most thorough community engagement process we've ever used in creating, designing, and any of our parks or playgrounds. This is just a playground within the park. And it took many, many months of really painstaking effort to listen to people and to watch kids and to see what they were interested in and how they were using the materials and creating from that an extraordinary plan that is such a complement to what the museum is helping to teach the people who come to the museum about the natural world. And so we've got a playground that is going to reflect all of the various ecosystems in Colorado, in the design of the play itself. So from mountains to the prairies, there will be features that allow kids and parents to understand the world that we live in here in Colorado, and allows them to get people who walk through the halls of their museum learning things to actually go outside and see it for themselves and interact rather than making the learning about nature be solely, an abstract learning principle, but to actually learn by doing. And so we're very excited. They raised money. They have parents and kids who are regular attenders that check in with them. They can't wait for this new playground to occur. And I can say that for my team, what we learned about early childhood has helped lead us since then to a partnership with another organization called Parent Possible, who's introducing early childhood learning concepts through Vroom in our parks. Again, another departure from our normal rules, installing signs that give parents tips about how to see what their children are doing and what they're learning as they're interacting in our playgrounds. And this has really opened the doors for my team to understand the critical connection between play and learning, and recognizing that it's something I've decided I'm going to write a book that's called Everything I Needed to Know I Learned Playing in the Dirt. And that recognizing that this is kids are such sponges, and they already know how to learn. We just need to get out of their way and help facilitate what they naturally know about learning about the world around them. So we're very excited about that partnership, and are going to be looking for more opportunities just like it.
Happy, thank you. And one of the things that I love about this this community, I don't know if you've been watching here, but pictures of the park are showing up in the chat. Thank you all for pulling those up. So if you'd like
wonderful.
to see,
Yay.
See on the Denver website what Happy's talking about and what this what this playground looks like, please take a look in the chat, and you'll find links there. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. Happy, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Want to, Lynn and Katrina, maybe turn to you, and we're going to start jumping into some of the audience questions. But I don't want to miss the headline here that this great new report is out today, Nurturing All Children in Nature from Trust for Learning. Lynn, I know Katrina mentioned that you were one of the co-authors of that report. I wanted to give maybe both of you an opportunity to share with the audience what, if you had to describe, what are some of the big headlines that come out of the report? What are the kind of key takeaways maybe that you'd want the audience to know to entice them to go and read the full thing?
I don't know. Katrina, do you want to go first?
I certainly can. And, I think one of the things that we were really looking at, and at least, Trust for Learning, we really start with equity in mind. How are we really thinking about equity when we're making decisions? And really looking at the fact that there's a lot of kids in this country that don't have access to safe places to play outside. So we knew that we needed to look not only at outdoor spaces, but also how could we bring nature to the inside when it's not possible for the kids to be outside. And, more and more and more, we're seeing that kids spend less time outdoors, more time in front of the video screen. When I was a kid, my parents said, come home when the street lights come on. And I was 4, 5, 6 years old, and it just doesn't happen that way anymore, which is unfortunate. But we really looked at equity. How do we make sure that kids are learning about the outdoors? I mean, they're the future, right? In a very cliched way, but also in the fact that they're the ones that are going to be taking care of us and also the earth, as we get older. How about you, Lynn? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think that, the highlight really is to really reinforce the fact that children need to be in movement, that they learn, through their whole body. And it's through these sensory experiences that really help to develop their capacities, their brain function. And if we are not giving them those opportunities to be outdoors, we're really stifling their natural development. And so there are so many programs and approaches that are already doing such good work. And so we were really excited to highlight so many spotlights of organizations and programs that are doing it their way, and looking at schools that have lots of resources, and they, have full gardens where they're harvesting vegetables all year round, and they have got wonderful outdoor spaces too. Very, low budget programs that really see the value of transforming their spaces, but recognize there are these barriers, these equitable issues that are coming up that are keeping them from doing the work, and really identifying what those barriers are, and showing a pathway to incorporating nature on all budgets. That there are ways that you can start to bring nature in a way that also you're training your teachers so that they feel more comfortable being out in nature. I mean, I think that's one thing. It really has to be an intention, to really always be thinking about being outdoors. Even like you said here, like I'm the one who is out here outside. I always, am incorporating outdoor into every aspect. So, really helping educators who maybe didn't have a great experience as a child being outdoors, like helping them to reconnect themselves, because again, their relationship with nature is going to impact a child's relationship with nature, and how they can be full of wonder and joy and curiosity and stillness to listen to nature, is going to come out of the caregiver who is providing the environment for the child. So, looking at all the areas where we need to support, and what policymakers really need to know in terms of funding. There are lots of financial barriers where, in certain environments, there's no bad weather. It's just bad clothing, right? If you're not prepared to be outside in the snow because you don't have long johns and snow pants and rain boots, or, hats and gloves and all of those things, and, hot tea in a thermos, you're not going to be able to provide an environment that the children are going to thrive in. So, having the funds so that you can provide the gear for all of the children to be outside, that you have areas that have shade so that you can be outside in the rain. Just really identifying all the things that can kind of get in the way, but also can be they can be unknotted. They don't have to continue to be barriers. So just really highlighting all of that and seeing all the work that people are doing in an amazing way, and just looking at, again, all of the different research that just points to the fact that being outdoors, being in movement, being in nature just helps children on so many levels. That sensory motor development, the ability to become a steward of nature, to really know that you are able to care for the world and that the world can care for you. Those are things that really are seeds that have to be planted at the earliest years from birth to 7. And so, yeah, I hope that everybody gets a chance to read the brief and find some inspiration and resources that are helpful.
And somebody in the chat was talking about families. And I think really we need to help families understand what good quality early childhood looks like, and the fact that you don't get a cold from being outside, you actually get a cold from being inside, locked up with 20 other little people running around. And so, I'm from Norway, and there's a lot of outdoor education there, and they also say the same thing. There is no bad weather, there's just bad clothing.
Kami, I want to let you respond a little bit to what Lynn was just talking about there. The truth is that at this point, for a lot of whether it's parents or teachers, outdoor learning and nature-based learning may not be the norm for them at this point. I mean, a lot of kids spend a lot more time indoors than they did even just decades ago. What would you say as an environmental educator? What advice would you have, whether it's to parents or these teachers who maybe don't have the same sort of comfort level that you have with the outdoor learning aspect of this? How do they get started? What advice would you give to them as a jumping off point?
Okay, well, my advice is, first, you want to start with maybe on the school grounds, right? Mm-hmm. So taking walks on the school compound, right? So teaching them the kids how to walk in a line, how to follow direction. If I say stop, you stop when I say stop. So practicing that. As they get accustomed to going outside and developing those routines of dressing, make sure they have everything on, then you take them further and further out, right? And so what you do is, so that's graduation, right? You went from the school grounds, now you go in the woods now, or across the bridge. Now you're in the woods now you could go further and further, right? So working with them up to that point of like where you could take them in the woods, right? And so it's developing routine. And what that does also, it's developing trust as well with the students. It's like, I could trust that if I tell you stop in the woods, that you're gonna stop. If I tell you, we're going this way, or stop at the trailhead, that you're gonna stop. So it's trust building, is relationship development. And in terms of routine, do it every day. You do it every day, make it part of your routine. Kids are accustomed to routine and structure, and make it fun. Be intentional about making it a fun experience. Give them an opportunity to play. Like, wherever you is, whatever you're doing, make sure you build in time so that they have time to free play, to enjoy nature, to play, to have fun. You give them the boundaries as to where you could go here, but you can't go over there, and so give them time to do that, and develop relationships and build trust with them.
Kami, thank you. Dora, I want to turn to you as well. I'm still reflecting on that beautiful description you gave of the the interactions that you and your children have out in nature. How does that the respect for the outdoors and the reverence for plants and animals and all that you were talking about, how does that impact your relationship with the children that you serve? How does it maybe help to connect you and the children?
It's a great impact. The relationship is amazing because we are all learning from each other. We're all practicing and thanking nature for everything that gives us. We have a great big relationship. They can't wait to go outdoors. As soon as they come to the daycare. They know they're going outside right away. They have their breakfast and they get ready just to enjoy nature, because nature gives us everything. I mean, there's so many things that gives us, we are all happy to be outdoors, enjoy each other's. Their connection is huge, because they are, who's not happy to be outside and somebody telling you, oh, we need to follow this routine, or we need to do this. They're free to choose what they want to do. They're free to explore. They're free to create. And like I said before, to explore and create new things, so that they didn't even think they could do it. And so their self-esteem grows so much that they can't wait to come and be outdoors. So what we do is we try to enjoy outdoors as much as we can. We also believe in no bad weather is the bad clothing. If a child by accident or the parent forgot to bring the special clothing, we always have extra. And in case somebody brought extra clothing, we always talk to the parents. We have a big relationship with the parents, but everything starts with the parents. They are their primary, they're lovely parents who want the best for them. So we start the relationship with them. We continue with the children, and their connection grows bigger and bigger because they cannot wait to, like I said, to be happy in their own habitat.
Terrific. We have got about 10 minutes remaining, and so I want to get to as many questions. So maybe we'll do sort of a speed round here through. We got lots of questions in the chat. Katrina, this might be a question for you. Peggy is asking whether there are specific early childhood curriculum models that sort of lend themselves best to being implemented in outdoor spaces. I know Trust for Learning, has a collection of models that it works with and under the kind of the Ideal Learning banner. What's your thought on that?
Wow, we are seeing this grow everywhere. And so, the principles of Ideal Learning, they're very curriculum agnostic. And so it really is about what you're doing and how you're enhancing. So you absolutely can see outdoor education and indoor natural education happening in a lot of curricula that is developing right now. When you look at programs like Waldorf, Montessori, Reggio Emilia, Tools of the Mind, they already have those sorts of things built in, but we sure are seeing the development of people really looking at this nature-based learning and connecting kids to nature and connecting kids to joy. Lynn was saying, I mean, people learn more when they're happy. They learn more when they're joyful, and people feel good being outside. So I like what somebody said in the chat about this can really be about really small steps. It doesn't mean that you have to, obviously Happy's talking about a really big step, but you can take small steps to make your program, more accessible and for kids and families in nature.
Great, Katrina, thank you. Happy, there's a question in the chat about sort of the planning process for this, and whether it is more difficult to sort of convince the city, convince the lawyers, for example, of this sort of more natural approach to the outdoors. Any insights that you'd want to share there? I'm happy you're muted again.
Muted again. Indeed, it's going down this pathway is always a risky one that's filled with risk, or at least perceived risk. For our lawyers, our risk managers, the idea of not having manufactured steel structures that are heavily certified and so on in a very controlled environment where we can, address safety issues is challenging. But more, and it was even for our own staff. I think more and more the idea that that just watching kids naturally and what people naturally do is always going to involve a little element of risk. That's part of the learning environment, and to balance the need to control everything in the environment, to keeping safety in mind, of course, but allowing the process of people discovering and discovering in their own ways, and putting the guardrails in, but also leaving as much as possible just a natural way for kids to play and to learn, and to recognize acceptable risks that that will serve our children and all of us well in life, because we have to make decisions about, should I do this or shouldn't I? Can I climb that or can't I? And so we've had to really broaden our thinking and learn, go to some of the sources, some of the leaders in the field who are working in nature play environments, relying heavily on our design community, and also pushing them to create the next the next designs, and most importantly, what we found was partnering with our early childhood community. I'm a big adherent to brain-based learning and science, and how that informs us about the work that we're doing, even with play. And so it's taken a while, and the more folks that are out there designing these spaces and finding success, the more I think the public becomes more comfortable with the idea of what they have always perceived to be a risky environment. So we're very pleased with the progress we've made. We still have a ways to go in convincing everyone all the time to, our building department, the people who have to review plans and so on, and sort of walking them through what we know, and building the kind of trust in what's really important for our families and children.
Happy, thank you. Question, interesting question. Maybe Gami, Lynn, Dora, maybe any or all of you could weigh in. Even though I will caution, we've only got about 3 minutes before we need to jump off today. Question about staffing of this, of these outdoor models. Lynn, do we need to consider ratios differently, for example, in preschool programs that will be more outdoors?
I don't necessarily think the ratio has to change that much. I mean, I think we should go with the standard ratio if you've got, I don't know what the standards are per state, but you need to definitely have educators that are comfortable being outside, that are comfortable being with groups of children, 3 to 4 children, 5, 6 children per adult, I think is an average. But I don't think you need to necessarily have more, because again, it's not about controlling the children in the environment. It's letting them really have that free reign of being in nature. I mean, children are the experts. They are the master of being present. They are present with all their sensory capacities in nature. It's the adults who are thinking about other things and thinking about the future, thinking about what they have to do when they get home, thinking about yesterday. And so if they're in an environment that just piques their curiosity, they're really involved, and again, you always have to have a couple of, educators who are available to go catch that, the one runner that's gone off, down the hill around the bend. But, so it is important to make sure that you've got, the right number of educators. Recently, I saw a group of children with one teacher, and there must have been like 18 children going on a perimeter walk around the school. And I thought to myself, this is not a good situation, having one teacher with this many children. So yeah, it's important to make sure that you have the right amount. But I think it's also based on standards, by the state, but I don't know. Dora, do you have any insight on that in terms of what's going on at your program?
I totally agree. But since I have a family daycare program and I work with my 2 children and they are nature lovers as well, because of the way I grew up. We all tend to be outdoors with all the children. If we have very young babies and they have different schedules, then one person stays, taking care of the babies, and then the other 2 people are outside, depending on the age. It's always depending on the age, and also depending on things that you have to do outside. Then for me, the more the better, the barrier, because we're all outside enjoying, and they have so many curiosities, so many things that they want to do at the same time, and different things. So we try to be and let them enjoy each other's, but at the same time, if somebody has a question or wants to do something or needs help on something, we just want to be that guidance and that last hand to be there and say, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here. Just tell me, just share what you want to do. And we're jumping in and trying to help them as much as we can. So I totally agree with what you said about the ratio.
And I am sorry to have to jump in, but we have an unusually hard stop today. We've got another broadcast that is coming up here in just a couple of minutes from the Hunt Institute. So we're going to have to wrap up, but I do want to, as we're doing so, remind you, you can find this new report, Nurturing All Children in Nature, at the Trust for Learning website, which is trustforlearning.org. Please do go check it out. It is a fantastic new report, and I think will add a lot of fuel to the conversation today. I want to thank Lynn Turner, who is Coordinator of Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access at the Waldorf Early Childhood Association of North America, Dora Ramos, who is owner and operator of Nova Family Childcare, Gami Moses, who is Student Affairs Manager at Common Ground in New Haven, Connecticut, and Happy Haynes, Executive Director of Denver Parks and Recreation, along with our great friends at Trust for Learning. Katrina, thanks for doing this with us. Congratulations on the new report, and we will see you all back here on the first Tuesday in May. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.